Lords, it goes without saying that we are at a critical juncture. Whilst the focus of international attention and outrage has rightly been on the nature of the US withdrawal from northeastern Syria, our attention should also be on those at risk from the latest outbreak of violence. An estimated 300,000 people have now fled violence in northern Syria, almost double the figure stated by the Foreign Secretary in his response to an urgent question last week in the other place. Reports continue to surface of widespread casualties, including from the alleged use of white phosphorus munitions in Turkey's aerial and artillery bombardment of Kurdish forces, with innocent civilians, including children, amongst the victims. Turkey's incursion has upended the fragile security of the region and poses grave questions about the fate of an estimated 100,000 ISIS militants in detention within areas under Kurdish control. The agreement struck between President Putin and President Erdogan is intended to create a 30-kilometre deep exclusion zone along the Turkish-Syria border, not only to tackle the perceived threat from Kurdish militants, but also to repatriate some or all of Turkey's sizable population of some 3.5 million Syrian refugees. I want to focus my remarks specifically on the issue of these refugees. For more than 3 years, Turkey has generously hosted the world's largest population of refugees, with close to 4 million refugees and asylum seekers residing within its borders, including more than 3.5 million Syrians. This equates to around 20% of the total Syrian population and almost 2/3 of all Syrian refugees worldwide. With the civil war in Syria entering its 8th year, the prospects for their repatriation from Turkey appear limited, and public opinion at the ballot box inside Turkey has begun to turn against the refugees. We in the West must also acknowledge our own responsibility. 3 years on, the EU has yet to meet its own pledge as part of the deal struck with Turkey in 2016 to pay Ankara the second instalment of funding to help Turkey meet the cost of hosting such large numbers of Syrian refugees. But even with this as a backdrop, we must recognise that it is an extreme response to growing consternation within Turkey over the long-term viability of such a large refugee population. And President Erdogan's apparent intention to forcibly repatriate large numbers of Syrian refugees within the exclusion zone threatens to undermine the goodwill he and his government have fostered through their role in supporting vulnerable refugees. My Lords, as we have heard this afternoon, the current situation requires our urgent attention. Already it is becoming clear that, like any conflict, the incursion will create winners and losers. The losers will be those Syrians, including Kurds, from whom so much has already been taken. The winners will be Russia, Assad, and ISIS. That cannot be in our national interest. Turkey has been an important ally in a volatile region, but we must make plain that Turkey's actions risk further destabilisation and will potentially place millions of Syrian refugees in intolerable danger. We must encourage Turkey to show restraint, and I would ask my noble friend the Minister to outline what plans he has to encourage Turkey to do so, and to think again about the forced repatriation of Syrian refugees. My Lords, the fate of millions quite literally hangs in the balance.